Handmaid's Tale is coming for us all, and here's what you need to know. This executive order, signed on the 23rd, threatens all of women's financial independence. Essentially, their entire argument is that the Equal Credit Opportunity Act for women that was passed in 1974 is actually discriminatory to white men. This executive order is intended to encourage meritocracy in a colorblind society, not race or sex-based favoritism. And they're going to be evaluating all pending proceedings under the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, which currently prevents leaders from discriminating against women based on their marital status. It prevents women from having to have a male co-signer. It essentially gives women financial freedom. Now, the executive order cannot change the law. This can only be done by an act of Congress. I do want to remind you that Republicans currently have a slight hold over Congress. They have 218 seats, whereas Democrats currently hold 215. This could go either way. And it will be up to independent federal agencies to abide by this executive order. This is exactly what we saw in the first episode of Handmaid's Tale, where it literally took away women's ability to have their own financial freedom.
Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. In case you're new here, my name is Maren.
And I'm Maureen.
Right. So guys, 52% of white women are finding out the hard way after they voted for Trump, right? Trump has recently signed a new executive order, and this is going to be affecting women. It does not matter if you're white or black, everybody is gonna get affected. And do you remember, guys, when we were telling you to go watch The Handmaid's Tale?
Right. For those of you who've watched, you know very well why this is so similar to what happens in The Handmaid's Tale. But for those of you who haven't watched the movie, I feel like it will be a good movie for you to watch, just so you can anticipate some of the policies that are being passed. You can be able to tell where the country is going and in which direction or shape the country will take.
Right. But guys, we don't want to talk too much. Let's watch what we prepared for you, and then we come back and talk about it. You can let us know your thoughts and opinion on the comment section. Also consider subscribing if it's your first time here. But for now, let's watch and then we come back with our commentaries.
Okay, red flag here, freaking out a little bit. So I just read that he passed an executive order that women shouldn't have credit cards anymore. I totally support him, and I always vote Republican, but I have an online business and 90% of my sales are from women. And that's pretty much all of the income for me and my family. I don't understand. What is the problem with women shopping? Can someone explain to me why this is even a thing? I just looked it up, and 70% of all shopping in this country is from women. So I would think that other businesses might have a problem with this too. Like, we're just gonna let this happen? I don't get it. He promised he was gonna take care of women. So, like, what is this even about? First, he's trying to say that married women with their name change can't vote, and now he's trying to take away our credit cards? Dude, my mind is not working right now. Doesn't he know that all of us voted for him?
Will women start needing the man in their life to sign for their ability to have a credit card again? Let me introduce you to the executive order restoring equality of opportunity and meritocracy. This executive order says it is going to encourage meritocracy and a colorblind society, not race or sex-based favoritism. One of the main impacts of this executive order is to address disparate impact liability. And what disparate impact liability states is that landlords, employers, banks cannot implement policies that will disproportionately affect a single group or a protected group of people. Let's get into the fine details of this executive order, though. If you look here, it says the Attorney General shall initiate appropriate action to repeal or amend the implementing regulations of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. If you're unfamiliar with Title VI, that is protections from discrimination against race, color, or national origin. Here is where it impacts or can impact the financial independence of women. They are also reviewing the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, which was the act that allowed women to receive fair treatment from banks when applying for credit applications. Banks could no longer require a male cosigner in order to approve credit applications. This could open the door for banks to once again start discriminating against women, specifically based on their sex.
Okay, y'all, so let's talk about this new executive order called Restoring Equality of Opportunity and Meritocracy. It was signed this year by that administration. On the surface, it sounds nice. Meritocracy, opportunity, who could be against that? But if we read, you will see how it really affects people's rights, their finances, especially women. So this order tells agencies to focus on individual merit, meaning people should be judged by effort, skills, and results, not by group identity. It also tells agencies to move away from using disparate impact in enforcing civil rights. So for those of you who don't know, disparate impact is when a rule looks neutral, but it actually hits one group a lot harder than the other. So for example, if a bank denies loans based on rules that particularly exclude women or often exclude women, that would be disparate impact. So here's what's going to get rolled back. So agencies are directed to review and repeal rules, lawsuits, and investigations that rely on disparate impact. So this would directly impact the Equal Credit Opportunity Act and the Fair Housing Act. It doesn't erase these laws, but it removes one of the strongest tools for proving systemic bias. So let me explain how it will directly be affecting women. Women, especially women of color and single mothers, have typically faced barriers when it comes to getting loans. So without disparate impact claims, proving discrimination will just get even harder. It will also affect housing. If landlords or whatever adopt typical regulations that usually try to keep women out, they will do that. Jobs and promotions. We already know about the wage gap as it is. Many workplace policies that already block women's advancement don't obviously directly say women don't apply, but you see how there's fewer roles out there for women. You see how there's fewer promotions. Those are exactly the cases that disparate impact used to cover. And now that's gone. And then retirement and wealth. Because women's lifetime retirement earnings are already much lower, they already have to retire with much less. Weakening protections will just deepen that gap. So this order doesn't level the playing field. It assumes that the playing field is already equal when it obviously isn't. Women still carry more of the caregiving burden, face pay gaps, and are more likely to work part-time. So if you remove systemic protections, you are choosing to ignore the systemic disadvantage that women already suffered through. In other words, it sounds like fairness, but it stacks the deck against us even more. So when you hear about this executive order, remember, it's not restoring fairness, it's stripping away protections. It makes it harder for women to fight back against unfair credit, housing, and job practices. And it places the burden on people of having to prove intent rather than the government being held accountable. This isn't just about politics. This is also about women's rights, women's wallets, women's futures. Also, this was not discussed in a 900-page manifesto that we've been hooting and hollering about for the last year and a half.
Ladies, and now they're trying to come for our financial independence and ability to get a credit card, literally taking us back to the 1950s. There was an executive order signed 2 days ago that isn't getting a lot of attention. Restoring equality of opportunity and meritocracy. Yes, this was signed by you-know-who 2 days ago, and it could have really significant impacts on women and minorities when it comes to their finances. This executive order is targeting both parts of the Civil Rights Act as well as the Equal Credit and Opportunity Act. Talking specifically about women, the Equal Credit and Opportunity Act was signed into law in the 1970s, and it prohibited banks and credit agencies from discriminating against a woman just because she's a woman, aka back to the days of needing a cosigner, a male cosigner, for a loan, a mortgage, a credit card, or even a bank account. Now, here's the thing. Only Congress can actually change that law. It's important to be aware of this because we need to keep an eye out in the House and the Senate for any similar legislation. Now, we all know that mediocre white men think women getting a fair chance or minorities getting a fair chance at anything, just the same chance as anybody else, is discriminating against them because, of course, they're mediocre white men.
So guys, welcome back. Let us know what you think about the videos you just watched, right? And I just have a question for our audience. How many of you feel like you're okay with the situation that is going on right now? And if we insist that you watch The Handmaid's Tale, we're not insisting for no good reason. In this program,
and we're not insisting because the movie is all that and then some. It starts as a fire episode, with a fire episode, of course, right? But as it progresses, it becomes boring. But
not boring, just... we don't want to spoil it for you. Just what happens is just...
Right, but I think out of your interest of knowing how the movie ends and if all these people get karma, you know, the Erika Cox of that movie, yeah, it will be a good watch.
Right, and the movie starts when women are losing their jobs, they're getting locked out of their workplaces, their bank accounts are being seized, and if you're not married, if you are married, your husband becomes responsible for your hard-earned money, right? right?
Right.
Exclusively.
And if you do not have a husband, provided you have a male relative or
representative.
male representative,
Sounds
they're the
like-
ones who take control of your money.
Right, that sounds a lot like UAE, right? But anyway, guys, that is just about it. So, do you see any similarities? But I feel like for people who voted Trump right now, do you regret the decision, or do you feel like you're still on the right track? Because at the end of the day, people say you get what you voted for. Do you feel like you're getting what you voted for? And also, President Trump told them he didn't hide anything from anybody. Actually, he said he wanted to restore America
back to its original order, where men were the ones who were providing for the families,
women,
and women only needed to worry about taking care of the household and the family.
Right.
You know.
And he also said he wanted to restore America back to its original form that it's supposed to be in, where you only have a nuclear family of a mother, father, and children in that specific household, right?
Right.
And I feel like this is one of the good ways into getting back into that order. Is it a good decision? Definitely not, because in a society, you can never see it through the same lens, or you can never have the same perspective, and it's why we are all different. We all can't think the same. Even us as twins, we cannot think the same. We have different perspectives.
We do think the same, but sometimes we do have different perspectives.
Right.
Right. And also another thing, you know, when Trump says that he's removing that, I mean, he's signing that executive order because it is racist and unfair to white men. I do feel like situations
laughable.
can never really truly be equal, especially when it comes to different genders, a man and a woman. For example, when he says he's removing the equal credit opportunities, personally, I do feel like it will affect the women more than it will affect men. And if you're not a woman, you can really not understand how this, just as with racism, when white people usually say there is no racism and that the system treats everybody equally, because they are not black, they really do not understand where the system oppresses black people.
Right. And guys, okay, personally, I have to say that my biggest fear is, like, right now, I even pity women from the United Arab Emirates, you know, and just because of the way they live. And my fear is we go back milestones that were created in order for women to get to a place where they are right now. And there's a reason why. It's not like everybody loves being a single mom. There's a lot of scenarios that could have led to a woman being a single mother. You know, one could be a widow, one could be someone who's escaped GBV violence in their marriage, and another one, like different scenarios, you know. So this type of situation also takes women steps back, women who could be able to work for themselves, who could be able to rely on themselves, because you also have to think about, like, when I look at this situation, my mind goes wild and I think about, I don't know, intrusive thoughts take over and I go to the most extreme. You're like, what if you've managed to work yourself and become independent, you have a family, not by choice, you're still single, but you have a kid you're raising, and then this, if we are trying to compare it to the Handmaid's Tale, where for you to access funds, you had to have a male representative, who this male representative was the one to go to the bank and withdraw your funds. The next question I want to ask is, for women on this platform, do you think, God forbid it gets to that extreme measure, but do you think you have trusted males around you who you would trust with your whole finances, that they would go and just act honorably? Because money also brings out the true character of people, you know.
Right. And of course, Handmaid's Tale is a worst case scenario of how America could end up, but best case scenario is since the executive order has already been signed, it's yet to be passed by Congress, but yes, it has already been signed. Best case scenario is, let's just hope things reach there and they don't escalate any further.
And you know, guys, when Trump started with DEI, there's a lot of people who were happy because they thought it only benefited black people, and they were like,
It
black
also
people normally
exposed that it was benefiting
white women, you know.
Especially.
Exactly. So people were really happy because it was getting cancelled, and they were like, let people earn according to their merits, earn job opportunities according to their merits, right? And this also, it said that it's being cancelled ethical because equal credit rights just it's not a thing, and it's discriminating against white men, and that women need to earn these credits on their own. And I feel like, just as I said, things can never really be equal. It's why we have men and women. It's why we have poor and rich. It's why we have employed and unemployed. Life is not fair, in short, and life can never be fair. So if you're trying to create a fair America, is this the best way to do it? Being that is a possibility that might never ever come to existence. Life can never ever be fair,
Right. So guys, let us know what you think about this episode. Also consider subscribing if you're new to our channel, and we'll see you on our next episode.